Hi, it's Kathy and my little co host, Massimo. Massimo is one of my three dogs, and he's a co host today because he sort of inspired my topic for today. Um, Question is my dog weird? Well, I hope so. I hope all of your dogs are weird because I think of weird as being fun and quirky and silly and all that good stuff. So, in that sense, I hope all your dogs are weird. But it also kind of brings to mind some of those sort of odd behaviors that like we know dogs do, but we wonder why or if it's okay. Um, and that kind of is what I wanted to kind of focus on today. It all started, not all of it. Okay, not my whole dog experience, but this subject started when I was out walking with Massimo and one of my other dogs, Diego, and he was having a particularly wonderful time kicking over every single pee and poo and drop of pee that he got out to pee on top of someone else's pee or poo. He was just kicking, and I mean, he was in his glory kicking, meaning there's dirt and grass and twigs and everything flying. And and I thought, gosh, I wonder if people ever wonder if that's normal, you know, or okay, or if it's a sign of something that he's struggling with. And that's what kind of got me started. So today I'm going to look at that après potty kicking, the post potty kicking is what I call it, and the zoomies and the little circle dance that lots of dogs do before they lay down. So I'm going to actually start with zoomies. I Hi, I'm Kathy. And this little guy right here, hi, kiss. Oh, kisses. This is my co host for the day, Massimo. He is one of my dogs, actually, and he's the inspiration for um, today's video. I got the idea about it. One, yes, because he's weird, but only in the best ways. He's goofy and fun and silly, and he's um, a little bit reckless in that he's willing to try almost anything one time. So, in that kind of awesome sense of weird, yes, he is weird, and I'm glad. Hi, Rosie. Rosie decided to do a cameo here. Rosie is one of my other dogs. I have three total: Massimo, Rosie, and Diego. Um, but as I was walking him and Diego the other day, I got inspired by one of the behaviors that I think a lot of people see their dogs do. Um, Please forgive that loud noise. That was Rosie. She needed a drink. Um, but those kind of behaviors that dogs do that we're not, especially as new dog owners or first time dog owners. I hate that word. Why did I say it? New dog parents or first time dog parents, we may not have run into them before, and they can look a little bit odd and can just make us wonder and maybe sometimes make us concerned. So that's why I wanted to kind of not address, I wanted to talk about them. So the three behaviors that I'm going to talk about in this video are zoomies, um, après potty kicking. Sorry, just a joke, partial fronts. But after potty kicking, and also the little circles that they do before they lay down to go to sleep. The first one I want to talk about is zoomies. I, especially when I started researching this again, I love the fact that there's an actual scientific name for it. And it's actually called frenetic random activity periods, or FRAPs. I don't know why, but that just tickled me. Hope you find it kind of interesting too. There's actually been quite a few studies on it, but there is no real definitive cause or origin for them. um, as far as the studies go. Um, Anecdotally, though, they do seem to be a way that dogs kind of let go of built up energy or excitement or stress. So the zoomies are typically, they're happening when the dog is in a positive and a happy kind of state of mind. If they're doing any kind of fast, repetitive behavior that has different body language to it, that's not really zoomies. That's something else. Um, and probably I'll be able to talk about it in a future video. But if you have questions about things like that, please just com put ask the question in the comments, or you can email the channel. I'll be happy to answer those for you. Anyway, so here we're talking about zoomies or fraps. This is when a dog is running full tilt. They usually have their tail, if they have a tail, and their behind kind of sort of tucked under a little bit. Not like they're scared, almost like they're trying to be more aerodynamic. They're trying to be faster. Um, they're running. They usually have a very loose body style as they're running. And their faces tend to be very relaxed and loose, and they're really fun to watch if you haven't already seen dog zoomies. Um, they definitely are very fun to watch. And oops, sorry about that microphone issue. So when we think about it, it makes sense that all of that loose body language and that kind of running, and that's the other thing. There's really no clear direction or kind of end goal location when they're doing zoomies. They tend to be pretty random, back and forth and here and there, and sometimes they'll do a pause and then do a little look around and then start all over again. It's very just again, it's in the title. It's very random, um, very fast, very. It's almost like somebody just pushed the fast forward button on your dog. Um, Zoomies are almost always when they're in a positive state of mind. Maybe they're excited because you came home or somebody new came over. Maybe they're just blowing out some extra energy when they go outside um, later in the day, or after a long nap. That's typically where it's coming from. So really, the only concerns with zoomies is if they're doing um, different types of fast movements or repetitive movements. So if your dog is kind of running or walking quickly in circles and they're just repeating, or if they're pacing back and forth and can't seem to settle, if they're showing other body language signs of stress, um, those are different types of things. That's something else you do want to check with your vet on that. Again, if you have questions on what I mean or want more information from me, go ahead and ask in the comments or email the channel. Other than that, you just want to try and make sure that when your dogs are doing zoomies, that there's nothing that they can hurt themselves on, nothing that they can destroy or knock over and ruin, and that people, especially children and people that may not be as steady on their feet, that they, stay still for those few moments or have a seat for those few moments so they're safe and they don't get knocked over. They're just Zoomies are just fun and they're silly. And if we don't have to worry about anybody or anything getting hurt, they're great to watch. And I actually, when my guys are doing zoomies, I usually will encourage them. So if they do that pause, I'll do a real playful kind of, I'll call their name or do a playful little, a couple of words to them to almost egg them on to keep going because it's just so funny. The next thing is the post potty kicking. Now, this is where again, my inspiration came actually. I was out walking with Diego and Massimo. You'll be able to see Diego later in the video or in a video soon. They're both small dogs, and I took them for a walk down at a park that is right on the beach. Um, and sorry, so many ums today. Massimo especially adores the beach, and he loves any kind of walks, and he loves going to the park and running and smelling the grass and all the good traces of other dogs and other animals that have been there. Diego is an absolute scent loving dog, so he will spend the majority of his time just nose to the ground, loving everything he's smelling. Occasionally, he'll kind of find a bush that has a great smell, and we'll just I'll just see the back end of him as he's getting his big old dose of scent. Um, so we're just walking along, and hi, Rosie, cameo number 2. Hi. Um, and so we're walking along, and Massimo is having a great time. He's bouncy, he's happy. Diego's having a great time smelling. Massimo stops to go pee. Again, not really earth shattering. But after he peed, he did one of the longest series of after potty kickies I think I've ever seen him do. It was really, really funny. And unfortunately, I didn't get that on film, but I did get one of his on film, which I'll be showing somewhere during this part of the discussion. And that just made me think of the whole topic in the first place. Not every dog kicks as much or, or as intently as Massimo does. But most dogs have done after potty kickies at some point or another, and many dogs do it frequently. Um, so I thought, okay, let me look into it because I knew a little piece of it, but I was really happy to research it and learn a little bit more about it. So that kicking, um, the okay, thank you, sweetie. That kicking is actually I'm gonna change hands here. Thank you, sweetie. Thank you. That kicking, um, even though again, not all dogs do it, dogs that do it don't do it every time. Um, it is very common and it has a purpose. A couple of purposes actually. So the first one is, and what's really interesting is they are not trying to cover up their pee or their poo with whatever they kick back, dirt, twigs, leaves, all three with this guy. Okay, enough lickies. Thank you, sweetheart. Um, but leave it, buddy. Thank you. They're actually trying to share, move that scent up into the air and farther along the surface, the ground, near where, sorry, buddy, but no more lickies, okay? Play with your sister. Um, so they're actually trying to spread the scent. And it's really, it's very interesting that they're not only spreading it again in the air, but they're spreading it further on the surface. They also have scent glands in their paws. And so when they're kicking, they're adding more of their scent. It's different. It's their paw scent versus their urine scent, but they're adding more of their scent to the ground and the air. And the second purpose of it is that they are giving a visual signal to anyone around them, human, dog, squirrels, whatever. Um, Actually, mostly other dogs. But they're giving a visual signal to others around them, letting them know that they just pottied. And it's not necessarily, they're doing all this to clearly define that that's where they went, that's where they're supposed to go, and that they're meant to be there. Okay. Now, originally, think back when your dog before when your dog from their origins that your dog came from the wolves animals and thousands of years ago. Um, but think that I know only roll my eyes because trying to imagine my very pampered, domesticated dogs as wild animals just always makes me crack up. But think back to those dogs. Wait, thank you, honey. No more lickies, okay? Good job. Lay down. Lay down or go play. Leave it. Good girl. Leave it. Good girl. So they would delineate the areas where they were hunting, sleeping, areas where they're going to be for a while. They would delineate their areas this way. And it wasn't necessarily in the way that we think of territory as like a permanent place that's always ours, always, always. It really seems to be more like they're saying to any other animal, hey, this is my area right now. Okay. You need to know this is my area. So if you come in here, I'm gonna have to react and get you out of here. So it's more of a warning, almost like the dog version of an alarm system. Um, so when you think about how they used that back then, it still kind of makes sense with, in a very small way, with the way that our dogs do the kick down. They're just saying, hey, I went potty here. That means I'm supposed to be here. This is my at the moment, this is my potty right here. Um and hi. And they're getting the signal across both visually with the kicking, but also in the air and on the ground with kicking the actual urine area and letting off some of the scent from the scent glands in their paws. So it's really very efficient. It's kind of doing an awful lot. um so I was really interested to kind of find out a little bit more than I knew. I knew they were trying to kind of identify with their urine, where they had been, so that the kicking had to be part of that. Um, or should I say that the kicking was part of that? I did not know about the scent glands in their paws being there and being activated during that same time, and all the other stuff. So that's pretty cool. So the last one I wanted to talk about is one of the cutest ones, but sometimes it can be really annoying depending on if your dog does the pawing part of this behavior. But it's the circling, on their bed or their blanket or whatever surface they're going to lay down on, doing the circles before they settle down and lay down. And what's probably the most interesting about this one really is the fact that there's only been one study on this behavior. And if you think about the fact that, for instance, the last one, the kicking after potty, there's quite a few studies on that. So it's very interesting to me that there hasn't been that many studies on the circling behavior. I My theory is because most everybody just assumed that the dog was physically trying to change, to fluff up the area that they were going to lay down on, or that they were just had a little energy left and just wanted to use that up before they lay down. Basically, just they wanted to be a little more comfortable, and that's part of it. So yes, but there's a little more to it that's really interesting. So I hope there's a couple more studies that'll be done on this in the future. So I used to think they really just wanted to kind of fluff up whatever surface they were getting ready to lay down on. Kind of like us poofing a pillow, or kind of uh, kind of scrunching up our blanket, next to us as we're going to sleep. But it looks like there's a little more to it. So there was a study done, the one study I referenced, um, and what they did was they, in the same room with the same, of course, kind of flooring to start with, They put two of the same kind of pens, and in one pen, they put a very tightly woven fabric. Think kind of like a pretty rug that's woven very tight, so it's very smooth. It's soft, but it's very, very smooth and lies flat. Okay. So that was one surface. The other surface was more of a kind of uneven yarn texture. Think kind of like a loose shag carpet kind of thing. Um, so they had a piece of that. In the first one, they laid the carpet flat, made sure it didn't have any rolls, or little kind of squished up bits, nice and flat. And 19% of the dogs circled on on that flat, soft surface before they laid down. Okay. And that's really interesting. Like, okay, well, it's soft already, it's flat already. So were they trying to make it not flat? Were they trying to kind of poof it up a little bit? What were they going for? Well, the other pin had that kind of uneven yarn, loopy, also soft, kind of shag carpety. Not only did they have that, but instead of laying it flat, the researchers kind of just dropped it sort of in a pile. And what the dogs that went in that pen, 55% of them circled on that surface. And what, first of all, I mean, that's nearly 3 times as many dogs doing it. So there's obviously a very significant difference between those two types of surfaces. But it, it we want we look at it, and I think that the inferences that they got um, make sense. One, it seems like dogs prefer to have a flat, comfortable, soft surface, but that the circling behavior isn't just because of that preference. There's got to be something else they're doing, because 19% is still a pretty significant amount of dogs to do that. What's really interesting to me is my theory had been really that they were trying to fluff up whatever surface they had. Well, in the second situation, they had this nice soft material that was already in a pile, and they circled even more on that. So that proved my theory wrong. And what they came out with was they think that one of the primary things that the dogs are trying to do is to create a more flat and soft surface. They There is more to that, because the dogs that the 19% that did the circling on the flat soft surface, that was that way already, there was still that 19%. But there's also some theories that and these are the things that I hope that they do more research on. There's my second co-star Rosie there behind me. um there's also some theories that maybe dogs are doing it to make sure that there's nothing um, pointy, dangerous, or uncomfortable underneath the surface or within the surface. That there's nothing dangerous like bugs or other small animals underneath the surface. So I really hope that they do some more studies on this, because I think it's a really cool thing to continue to delve into. And I think we can learn some other good things that could come into, thank you, that could help us help our dogs have even better lives. The more we know about why they do the things they do, usually leads into us being able to help them be more comfortable, help them be happier. So, and plus, I just love, hey, I'm a dog geek, so I'm definitely a dog research geek, so I would love to find out more. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed all of this. I guess it all is kind of dog geek sort of sort of discussion. I hope you enjoyed it. If you got this far, thanks so much for watching the whole video. Rosie says thanks as well. And so you could get her close up. And if you have any comments, any thoughts on this video, please put them in the comments. If you have any questions or ideas on what you'd like me to do future videos on, please put those in the comments as well. And if you have any questions for me or you want any help from me, please also feel free to put that in the comments. Or if you want to do it more privately, you can go ahead and email the channel, and I'll be happy to do what I can to help you out. Have a great day. Give your pup a little scritch. I know I dropped it. That was so lame. Thanks for going to get it, though. It made for good action. Yeah, it did. It made for very good actions. I love